Welcome to all.
Okay, well, these are photos my grandfather took a long time ago. He died in '77, and about 90% of these photos I didn't have in my collection. About 10% of these photos I have shown at previous all meetings or some of our training club people, but most of these have not been presented before. And the program is kind of railroad oriented because my grandfather was basically a railroad man. He worked for Railway Express Agency. And they're very interesting photos. They're oriented around northern Michigan, the Alpena area. My grandfather was a Hoosier, born in 1886. And then he got a job for Adams Express Company and was transferred to Alma, Michigan, and then later Mount Pleasant. And then his latest transfer was to Alpena for American Railway Express. American Railway Express had incorporated Adams Express into it. In 1929, year of the Great Depression, American Railway Express was amalgamated into Railway Express Agency. So you're going to hear that term in this program. So anyway, in addition to his job, he was big into photography. So we're going to start with some of his non-railroad type photos. We have a still life. And if you notice the calendar, if you can read the calendar, it says 1932. So, and apparently the images here are to suggest, I think, various things. Like the clock expresses maybe the passage of time. The calendar also expresses time, how maybe time goes by quickly. Here was his typewriter he used. You can see there's a 1932 date here. And I think he used that typewriter through the 40s when he upgraded. Camera. There's even a picture of the Kodak film he used. Here he is at his typewriter composing. In addition to photography and working for the Railway Express Agency, he also wrote articles for various magazines, railroad magazines, and also wrote a lot of poetry. In fact, he wrote, I think, several thousand poems. So that's his office at home. So here he is setting up one of his photos. He did a self-timer, checking his lighting and so forth. And again, another photo, opt. And there he is checking his light meter. So a little bit about him at the beginning here. And then when he was a young man of about 19 years of age, he worked for Hagenbeck Wallace Circus. And so he had an interest in circuses. And here is a photo he took of the one of the tents being put up. And we have some kids helping. Here is a photo of the horses at the Parker Watts circus. These photos were all taken around the early 30s. Here's a photo he took. These were taken in Alpena of the Hagenbeck Wallace circus. And again, that's the one he had actually worked a couple summers when he was a kid, age 19, 20. And so that's some of his earlier attempts. This photo here was taken in downtown Alpena, and judging by the vehicles, to the right you see two Railway Express Agency trucks, and it looks like it's a parade to celebrate maybe 4th of July possibly, and it looks like it was taken from the Elks Temple downtown Alpena. Kind of a grainy picture. And I should clarify, these pictures that I have here, as I said, 90% are recent finds. I have an aunt who lives in Oak Park, Michigan, suburban Detroit, and she called me and said that she found a whole bunch of negatives in the basement, and they were taken by our grandfather, I.H. Cady. So I got them here, and when I went through them, I had to scan them and then make prints or whatever of them. So again, most of these have never been seen other than by me. If you're familiar with downtown Alpena, maybe some of you are not, but there used to be a drugstore called Spence Pharmacy. It was a Walgreen agency. And that building is still there. There's another view of the building. Can anybody guess where this building is? Well, then I will show you what it looks like today after it was modernized. And
I was going to say, I know where it is.
Okay, that's the building. It's the same building, but it has been extensively modernized. A lot of people seem to like the older look than the modern. Okay, and one of the downtown stores was Cohen's Men's Store. And you can see you can buy 2 suits for $15. It's going to be hard to buy suits in Northern Michigan now because the JCPenney Corporation, I believe, is shutting down all their stores in Northern Michigan. So anyway, this was a privately owned business, and this probably was around 1930, 31, approximately. This is on State Street in Alpena, and ironically, that house is still there and looks the same, including the little trellises by the doors for flowers or whatever, shrubbery. And here it is today. It's right across from Bayview Park. Hasn't changed. Here we have a night photo in the river. You can see the former post office in the background to the right. And so he did some attempts at night photography. Again, this was around 1939, 38. Then he took some views in the downtown area. The building to the left, that house is still there. And then the park in the foreground is still there. If you notice, the park is recessed. The park today is at street level. And the reason that the park is recessed here is that there was a very large, I think about a 5-story building here at one time. And that depression would represent the basement of it. And so park is still there. And it's next to a business called JJ's. And then the apartment complex to the right is gone. Don't know what happened to that. Smith Planet Night, again around 1939, 1940. And then the Great Lakes had passenger ships and cruise ships in the 20s and 30s, and they tended to fade out in later years. But this is the Alabama, and that's in the bay. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of the R.A. Townsend Company. Well, the R.A. Townsend Company was a coal company and was a major distributor of coal for people's furnaces. And this is on the Thunder Bay River downtown, and they had this big coal pile. So my grandfather took a picture of that, again, around 1940. And then this is their main building. They're now oriented toward heating and that type of thing, and furnaces and so forth. But that's the original structure, again, around 1938, 39. Again, this is another one of those negatives that was found in the basement of my aunt's. Here he is, another photo, getting set up for a another photo opportunity. And this is at Oxbow Farms, and there are condominiums here now. This, I believe, was also known as the Poor Farm. And this is on Long Rapids Road near the intersection of US 23. There's a condominium complex here now. But this building was up until maybe 1975 or 80, I think. So you see the dairy cows. And then this one here is very interesting. Again, taken in around 1937, 38. I think this is out in the Long Rapids area, but it just has a certain appeal to it. It looks very forlorn and poor, and kind of typical of rural homes you would see back in the 30s. This is a store that was downtown Alpena, the Thomas dress shop. And I think the reason he took that photo is that if you look closely to the right, it says another first by Air Express. Air Express was a division of Railway Express Agency. This is a Midway Market next to the garment factory on Chisholm Street in Alpena. Again, these are all around 1940. And that was about the size of a grocery store of that era. Not very big, but there were a lot of small grocery stores at that time. This is at Mishikiwish Park, skating rink. And at that intersection, you see, I don't know if you can see me, probably can't see me point, but there's a business called Alpena Glass Company now. There's a car wash and then a business called Alpena Glass Company. So that's how that looked in the late 30s. And then there's no development much beyond that intersection, but today the development goes for a long distance. This was his business card for American Railway Express. Again, remember, American Railway Express was incorporated into Railway Express Agency in 1929. So the main office downtown was 120 Park Place. This is the back of the downtown office. There's also an office in the Alpena train station. So again, this would be pre-1929. You're looking at somewhere in the 20s, maybe 23, 24. And they, at that time, still delivered express by horse and wagon. And also shipped out by American Railway Express. If you were a hunter, you could ship out your bear that you shot. That's my grandfather standing there. He had a self-timer on his camera. And these are American Railway Express men. These were express drivers that would deliver your goods. If you were shipping out, you would take it to the office, and then they would take it down to the train station and have it shipped out. This is my father on the left, and my uncle Lauren, who also became a express agent as his career. It's a kind of a humorous photo where they're guarding the American Railway Express strongbox. This is Uncle Lauren later at the downtown office. And then next to him is Aunt Joy. Aunt Joy is the one who found these negatives in the basement in Oak Park a couple years ago. And so, again, Uncle Lauren became a Railway Express man himself. Now, before United Parcel Service, you would ship by Railway Express. Any kind of a bulky package or a cumbersome package, you always went to the express office to ship it. Mr. Me, who was listening to the president and watching the presentation, can attest that in the 1970s, you could still ship by Railway Express. Up until 1975, you could ship by Railway Express. And what prompted its demise, in part, was the birth of United Parcel Service. Here we are, Detroit and Mackinac Railway Engine 113. I don't know the person he took a picture of, but apparently somebody who was important. The Detroit and Mackinac Railway Company ran from Bay City. Its main line was Bay City to Sheboygan. And he, again, had this photo set up. He's standing by the Aloha Depot. And Aloha is in Sheboygan County. Now, if you look at the date of the photo, It's April 10th, 1923. On April 10th, 1923, actually April 9th, 1923, my Aunt Beebe was born. But this is April, and look at the snow. And this is the freight house in Aloha. And look at the snow, April 10th. My father was riding the train to Sheboygan that night in the express car, sitting on the strong box. And that night, the train ran into the snowplow running ahead of them and derailed. He was from one end of the car to the other when he was sent flying along the car. Didn't get hurt though, just a little bruised. Another view of the Aloha Depot. I think he took this in the 40s. And the Aloha Depot was built out of logs and very interesting structure. Inside the Aloha Depot, it was rustic. And if you look to your left, you'll see that a bench was carved out of white pine. And very interesting structure. Part of it is still there up until the 1980s. Now, there have been no interior photos ever taken of the Alpena train station, which was a very nice station, until I found in my grandfather's negatives actual interior photos. My father said there was a big rubber tree inside the station, and when I held the negatives to the light, I saw what looked like a leafy thing. And when I had the picture printed, I realized, my gosh, there's a rubber tree my father was talking about. So this is one of the interior views of the Alpena train station. This is one my grandfather didn't take. I took this after the fire in 1994, looking at pretty much the same area. And it shows you how it was after the fire at that location. Another view of the interior, again, a very large station. You can see the waiting room benches. And then I colorized on the computer that photo. So that would kind of show you what it looked like in color. Not the best color rendition, but at least my feeble attempt at it. Express wagons were very popular for moving the goods around. This is at the Alpena train station, and you can see there are a lot of wagons there to load various items. People even shipped fish out by Railway Express. This is the Alpena train station. He took this photo in 1940. Again, there was an office at the train station itself, and then there was an office downtown. Then he had this photo colorized, and the colors do represent an accurate rendition of how it looked in 1940. Another view he took, there was a lot of shrubbery and greenery, and basically it was cuffed up very park-like. They had flowers planted around it, spirea bushes and other shrubs.
Ron,
yes.
Ron, we had a question chatted in. Where was the Alpena train station?
At the foot of Saginaw Street. It was burned down. Well, it was destroyed in '94. There were attempts to try to save it, but there were no funds available to do it. So Saginaw Street runs off 9th Avenue. It was at the very foot of Saginaw Street. It was sometimes referred to as the Saginaw Street Depot. Okay, and then you can read this. For decades up until 1957, an organization known as the Alpena Club of Detroit would sponsor the annual January snow train, bringing over 1,000 Detroiters to Alpena's highly popular winter carnival. Massive crowds would greet the train when it arrived at the D&M station. So he took a couple of shots here of the crowds, and you can see that is a lot of people. And those, I believe, are the people that came out to see the snow train. And his photo here was taken in the 40s. As I said, the train ran up until 1957, and this was when it was run by steam power. The building in the background was up until I think about 15 years ago, the old seed company. If you work for a Railway Express agency, you were on the train or in the office, you were required to carry a pistol. And so you see the brush to clean the pistol, the dirty rag, and some bullets that you would have for your pistols. And the express messenger would ride on the express car. If you are a driver, you also require to carry a gun, and that's a driver's cap. I do have a driver's cap in my memorabilia collection. Railway Express Agency drivers were expected to have their tie straight, their hat on, and their shoes polished. If their shoes were not kept polished, they were given one warning, and then otherwise they could be fired for not attending to a proper uniform. This is the downtown office on Park Place, and this is an expressman with my Aunt Lucille standing again, and he liked to pose family members in pictures. But again, that's at the Park Place location. Again, this was taken before United Parcel Service. This is the Fletcher residence on State Street, and here you see an expressman getting ready to deliver a package. This is listed as 223, and the package is fresh cut flowers being delivered by Railway Express. And I drove around for several weeks trying to figure out if this house was still there. And so I went down streets that said 223 and never could find the house until one day on 3rd Avenue, there's the house. I found it. It's still there, 223 3rd Street. And it's been changed a lot. And I'll go back to the previous picture, but if you look at the porch area, go back the other way. If you look at the porch area, it is the house. Okay, this is Bob Connors, who was one of the employees of Railway Express Agency. And it's a posed photo. I'm not sure what it's supposed to represent, but apparently I think it's done to be a little humorous. This is my aunt who found the negatives in the basement. This is at the Alpena train station. My grandfather was very big into composition of his photos. So if you look at the poster on the Railway Express truck, you'll see birds. And if you probably can't see, but the toy truck also has the exact same picture of birds on the toy express truck. These were some of the expressmen. On the left is Harold Rinke, who worked for a Railway Express agency, later had his own real estate office. My grandfather is the agent who was basically, he ran the office in Alpena, and he is on the right, the white shirt. Again, everyone is expected to be properly and cleanly uniformed. Another view of some of the expressmen. And another view of a typical truck around 1939, 1940. And the express drivers. Again, Harold Rinke on the left, I.H. Cady on the right. This is at the downtown office, the back side at the alley. The end of the alley on the left side, there is a shoe store. To give you a little bearing where this is. And again, more photos of the express drivers. I have never seen anybody take pictures of Railway Express locally. So again, the only pictures that were ever taken of Railway Express in Alpena, as far as I know, was by my grandfather. Again, you just don't see pictures like this. Okay, composition was important. I don't know how long, hours he had to wait for this photo. But since he ran the office, I think he could take time off and do some things at his liberty. Here you see the express truck with the bird image on the side of it. This is down at the Thunder Bay River, and you can see a stack of a little boat there. But in the sky, what do you notice? You notice birds flying, and you have birds flying on the express truck. So I think the idea is to have some parallel with the express truck. Another view of the expressman. This was taken at the train station. This is Bob Connors, the only color photo I found that he had taken. Again, these are all in the 40s. So driver Bob Connors, if you notice Bob Connors and the picture of the express driver on the truck, you notice the shadowing of the cap, the squinting of the eyes, the smile on the face. It's all parallel. The way the shoulders go back, it's just amazing how he was able to try to replicate the picture with the real person. This is at the downtown office on Park Place. This is my grandfather had a second family. His first wife died in a fire, in a house fire. So he had a second family. This is the second family, including the aunt that gave me the negatives to scan. The express office he would decorate at Christmas time, so you can see some decorations here for Christmas. And that truck, I believe, is still in the basement in Southeast Michigan. He had this colorized for Christmas, and as you can see, there's all kinds of decor here. This is the back side of the Park Place office, and you can see there's a lot of snow to shovel, and we have a couple employees shoveling out so that they can get the express moving. Nowadays, it's Federal Express or United Parcel Service again, but back in the day, it was Railway Express. This photo he did not take, but you would see these around up until about 1975 when REA went out of business. In later years, they simplified the name to REA Express, changed the logo a little bit. This is a typical truck you would see running in the 60s up until the 70s. Alpena had, I think, about 8 of these trucks, 7 or 8 of them. You'd see them lined up at their various locations. Their last location was on Worth Road. I've asked a lot of people that are up in years, they have no recollection of Railway Express agency, despite the fact that that's the way you would ship packages up until the 70s. It's just amazing how things fade away from people's memories. Here he is. This is shortly before he passed away. He lived to be 90 years of age. And here he is. This was an article in the Alpena News. He wrote a lot of poetry for the news. So the news did this photo story of him and his poetry. There he is at his later typewriter, typing away, working on his poetry. And then this is one of the poems that he wrote. I'll let you read that. And so much for the long lost photos of I.H. Cady. And John will go next. Any questions?
Well, you take questions, yes, by all means.
Well, Ron, just from a photography viewpoint, those are pretty amazing photos for the era. He was quite professional.
Yes, and as I said, it's just amazing that these didn't get thrown out, that they were in a basement. And so I was really, really pleased to be able to get them.
This is Bob Disher. Back in the 70s, the REA Express was shipping the Chrysler Plymouth Dodge truck announcement materials from the facility down at 1025 Brush Street in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, the Brush Street Depot, the Grand Trunk Western, yes.
Yeah, we did a lot of business, and that was the only time that we ever were involved with REA. Was the first announcement program was shipped from that facility in downtown Detroit, and I was the packaging guy, the plant manager that managed that facility. So it was in the old Fairleigh Morris Seed building.
Okay.
Okay, so that we go back a couple of years, and a lot of fond memories of all of that through 70s. And it was our company, Visual Services, that set up their billing process. So you didn't have an individual bill going to each of the 30 or 3,000 dealers or thereabouts of the Chrysler dealers, Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Imperial dealers. So,
oh, yes. Well,
go
in every town had an REA office, even places like Rudyard, Michigan and Posen, Michigan. Every town had an office, and there was even the small towns had usually a couple trucks.
Yeah,
But-
it's shaking my memory a little bit just to going back this far because, and I think at one time I had some REA Express memorabilia, and my memory is at 82, a little foggy. I hope I could remember the managers' names back in the day.
Well, that's great you can remember that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I'm here
a lot of people don't seem to remember it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
have one. I'm trying to picture where was the REA Express. I know you said on Park Place, but what's in that location now?
A drive-through bank.
Okay, all right. I understand then where that is. Yep,
Okay.
yep. By the Alpena News then.
Yes, that is
Yeah,
correct.
okay, in that part, okay.
Yep. Anything else? Well, then I guess, John, you're next.
Okay. Well, this is completely unrelated to the previous topic. It is a short video that my friend Paul Swanson and I put together. We've been doing a sort of a documentary film project on the route of Amtrak Southwest Chief. It's something we've been working on for probably 4 or 5 years now, making a number of trips out to Colorado and New Mexico, which is sort of the scenic highlight of the line. It is a portion that the train passes through in daylight in both directions. And Amtrak had been making some noise about discontinuing a portion of the service and turning it into a bus for a while. I think that discussion has gone away finally at this point through some action from Congress in reauthorizing Amtrak's funding. But it's a beautifully scenic area. It's historically significant because it is the Southwest Chief is the successor train to the famous Chief and Super Chief operated by the Santa Fe Railway, which was synonymous with luxury and fast travel between Chicago and Los Angeles. The train is still fast today, although I don't think anybody would make the mistake of accusing it of being a luxury service. But it is an area rich with history that Santa Fe capitalized on in their advertising for the train, touching on the climb over Raton Pass, elevation around 8,000 feet, Glorieta Pass, following the historic Santa Fe Trail and through the Navajo and Hopi Indian pueblos. So it's a beautiful route. At the time, we figured we should do what we can to document this because it was endangered. And this 8-minute video is just a small sampling of video that we put together. The video follows the train going west from La Junta, Colorado, across Raton Pass into the high desert country of New Mexico, and then it meets the train going back east and follows that back east towards La Junta. So you may want to be prepared to adjust your computer audio because the audio from this may broadcast loud. So we will switch over to this and we will see what happens here. And that was that. One thing that makes that particular stretch of route is unique is that it has these antique semaphore signals where the arm moves. And at one time, there were about 250,000 of those installed across the United States. And now it's down to just about 50 in New Mexico, with the plans to replace them soon. Technology dating to the 1890s. Any questions?
Ron, John, that was a great video. Having done a little bit of that, I'll have to say, appreciate your work. Obviously, you've got some drone footage and stuff in there. Did you have to get permission from the railroad to do that?
No. We just sort of ignored that issue. We've been out there so often that the people who actually run the trains, the local management, the local engineers, conductors, whatever, know what we're doing, are very friendly to us. We frequently stay in the same hotel in La Junta as the crews, and they're always interested to see what we've shot for the day. They seem to be appreciative of what we're doing, and so we've never had any sort of permission issue. Likewise for the freight railway that owns the tracks they run on. There's no freight traffic on that route anymore. It's all been rerouted elsewhere to avoid the grades over Raton and Glorieta Pass. But everyone out there is friendly. It's a very relaxed atmosphere.
Yes, John, my husband and I spend the winters in Santa Fe. We're in Santa Fe right now, actually.
Oh,
and,
very nice.
Yeah, and we spend the summers in Presque on Grand Lake. But we have ridden the Southwest Chief many times, and I would really encourage everybody to do it. Train travel is just wonderful, and this particular route, you see animals. It's really pretty incredible. I mean, the number of elk and pronghorns and deer that you see is just really, really amazing, especially when you go through some of the really narrow areas.
Yes, we've been we have that video was put together about 2 years ago now, but we have subsequently done several days of video on the train to complement things. And we had one particular shot of a herd of pronghorn running alongside the train as they were spooked by it. So yes, you get to see a part of America that is different from the interstate, or even in the places where the tracks sort of follow the interstate, you get to look at things other than the back of the truck in front of you. So you have time to take it in. It is a wonderful way to travel.
On the film, I noticed that there were a number of crosses laid alongside the rail track. Was there any history on what that part of the country and part of the history?
The first graveyard with the generally unmarked crosses is outside of La Junta, and it is sort of an itinerant worker graveyard. It's been there for almost 100 years. I understand that the crosses have been replaced at one point. And then the other one with the expansive displays of flowers and so forth and so on it is near the community of Bernal, New Mexico, which is sort of maybe 15 miles southwest of Las Vegas, New Mexico. And it is a traditionally Hispanic community cemetery there.
John, how often does that train run?
Once a day in each direction, and it's a fast trip to Los Angeles. You leave Chicago in the afternoon and have dinner about as you enter Missouri, go to bed near Kansas City, get up in the morning in far eastern Colorado, spend a full day crossing New Mexico and into Arizona, sleep through western Arizona and California, and usually by 9 a.m. you're in downtown LA. So it's about a day and a half travel time. And these days, their business actually has come back surprisingly well. For a while, ridership was way down. But now people have realized that as businesses come back and the airlines are packing people tightly into the plane again, the Amtrak's business has recovered faster than they thought, because people have discovered that they can socially distance somewhat on the train, take their meals and their sleeping accommodation, and not have to be packed into an airplane for 4 or 5 hours, breathing recirculated air with a bunch of other people several inches away from them. So they're doing pretty well at this point in the pandemic, and already the trains have returned to the length they were pre-pandemic, albeit within the coaches, every other row of seats is roped off to keep people separated, and so forth and so on.
So what's a typical train carry in terms of passengers?
Well, I think pre-pandemic they'd have about at normal average capacity, I'd say 120 people in coach and maybe 60 in sleeper.
I would say so.
And that would double around the holidays. They just add more cars. And that train has a huge amount of business in the summer traditionally, not this year, and I think not last year due to forest fires, but they carry thousands and thousands and thousands of Boy Scouts annually out to the Philmont Scout Ranch, and they get off the train in Raton and are bused to the Scout Ranch. So they do a pretty good business, and it was a complete mystery as to why Amtrak thought it would be any sort of rational idea to put everybody on a bus, especially a line that has 2 mountain passes with 7,500 foot elevations, where even this as late as May, you can get snowstorms sometimes at those elevations.
Yes, it's a fast way to go to Los Angeles from Chicago.
Yes. Any other questions for Ron?
I'm right here.
Anyone? Well, from my perspective, I'd like to thank both of you for a very, very interesting presentation on a little local history and a little distant history. So it was very interesting, I found, and all the photography and video work was great to see.
Well, thank you for granting us the audience.
Great. We'll have to find another one.
All right.
So goodbye, everyone.
Okay.
Ron and John, thank you very much. It was very good.
Thank you, Paul and Sherry.
Look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'd like to see some of the shots again, John, of the pictures when the frost was there. Those were just ending.
Yes.
Great. Anybody else? Thank you very much for a great presentation, and have a good weekend.
You all as well.